Just running a wee bit late here, people. I mean, hey, this is called Daily Chaos. Just want to make sure that we're actually streaming. And I actually have no idea. Are we streaming? Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Doesn't look like we are. So that's a bit of a pain. Yeah, do 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 do. Balls. Balls. Looks like we're running a wee bit late. According to this, I'm live now. I've got no idea where. Got no idea if you can see this. Yeah, apparently so. Hello. Okay, all right. Let me just make sure, seeing as this is the first show, that it can be picked up also by wakeupuk.net. So just sending a quick message before we kick off, and we'll find out. Yeah. Okay. Whoa. Thank you, Anna. Right. Brilliant. Okay. Exposing politics. You are watching Daily Chaos. Good evening. I'm Olly Connelly, and tonight talking points are election lies, fake Brexiteers, royal distractions, Islamist lunacy, NATO versus the European Defence Unit, and you tell me, yeah, because actually this is your show. It's you I want to hear from. You can call in on UK national rate number 033 000 11264, and that number is in the spiel at the top of YouTube, and I'll put it in the chat room at Wake Up UK as well. So anybody that wants to call, you should be able to call me on that Skype number. If you're connected to me on Skype, Olly Connelly, you can call through for free as an alternative. But hold on a sec. Anna says, oh, hold on. What does she say? Evening, Olly, but no what? Ah, refresh for Olly, says Jason. Okay, fine. So you've got the number there, 0033. I gave you the wrong number. Let me just sort that out. I am disorganized as usual. So there we go. I haven't bothered with any title music because this is a fairly organic format. I wanted to see how it would fly before I, begin to fine tune it. No guest, because I didn't really want to bring in any guests at this stage with what is a new format, out of respect for them. Basically cock up all the tech, as I tend to, as you know, first, and get all this kind of stuff out of the way, and then hopefully the show can progress, week on, week in, week out. So Wednesdays, 9 o'clock, youtube.com/Daily Brexit. because I haven't yet changed the name of that channel to Daily Chaos. So youtube.com/Daily Brexit, and on also wakeupuk.net. Thank you, Jason Tyler. God bless you, mate. And taking your calls, and see you in the comments, I hope, as well. And we've already got a few folks who are making one or two comments, I can see. So let's just see. Sherry Arnott. Hey, Sherry, says, can't see you. Well, you should be able to see me now. Bringing back some sanity after reading that Labour manifesto, says Craig Brexit. Well, I don't know about that, but we'll do what we can. Certainly going to scrutinise a little bit. So yes, tonight we're talking about election lies. Do you believe any of these parties, including the Brexit Party for that matter, when it comes to us obtaining our sovereignty, leaving the EU? Do you believe any of them? Personally, I'm really not sure who to trust, all in all, and hopefully we can have this conversation throughout the next hour and 15 minutes, as well as talking about royal distractions. Is that what it is with Andrew? Why are they talking about him, for example, and they're not talking about Peter Mandelson, Tony Blair, Alistair Campbell, these ardent Remainers right at the top of the Remain campaign, who seem to be giving a pass despite their contacts with Jeffrey Epstein? It's come out that Hillary and Bill Clinton, just in the last couple of days, spent many times at that ranch of Epstein's in Mexico, as well as those 26 flights that Bill Clinton took on the Lolita Express, going to that Pedo Island, or whatever it's called, Little St. James. So it just seems that Andrew is being thrown under the bus for perhaps political reasons, and want to talk a bit about that as well. Islamist lunacy with more attacks going on in the streets of London. It does appear, however much you wanted it not to be the case, that Enoch Powell was right, that we are seeing rivers of blood, whether you like it or not. That seems to be the case. London Bridge. But then again, there are some people that are saying, oh no, it was a false flag. I want to hear what you have to say about this. It seems to me that, well, I don't see why it would be a false flag. But I don't know. I want to hear from you. If you happen to be a Muslim living in the UK, then please, I want to hear particularly from you. I want to understand why there are certain sectors, not all, but certain sectors of your community that are not integrating into British society. What are we doing wrong? Why are the British public not being properly protected, not just in the UK, but throughout Europe? We seem to be seeing a kind of an Islamist slow broil takeover, if you like, in Amsterdam now. They've got the call to prayer going on and stuff like that. In Sweden, a very confused nation indeed. There have been over 200 bombings, not just knifings or shootings, but bombings in Sweden this year so far. What are we doing wrong? I want to hear your views on that. I want to keep it respectful. I want to keep it fair, but also I want to keep it real. Because it seems to me that the politicians are talking all sorts about the need for migration and so on and so forth, without addressing how to perform the first duty of government, which is to protect its people. And indeed, NATO Summit going on in London right now. Lots of hijinks going on there. I want to hear what you think about the role of NATO over the course of the last 70 years. Has it protected us? Only once has Clause 5 been enacted, where NATO is asked to attack a country off the back of an attack in a NATO country. The attack in the NATO country having been 9/11, which many of us believe was not as simple as a bunch of beardy weirdies in some cave in Afghanistan, one guy on dialysis having perpetrated that attack. Not quite as straightforward as that. And if you don't believe me, you tell me. Please, I am all ears to understand. How did Building 7 fall into its own footprint? That led to the one time that Clause 5 was enacted, which is when NATO is asked to go to war against a so-called perpetrator, Afghanistan. And then apparently, well, it wasn't Afghanistan anyway, and they decided that they wanted to go for Iraq, which surely was war profiteering. The point is that that may have been a phony use of Clause 5, but nonetheless, NATO, has it not kept us safe over the last 70 years? How would you equate its performance in that respect of keeping the peace against the EU that say that they've done that for us, that they are the ones that are keeping Europe safe? Who would you rather have protect the West? Would you rather it be NATO, or would you rather it be a European defence unit? So I want to hear your views on that as well. And Jesus Jones says 8 days till a hung parliament. Literally, I hope. Jesus, this is precisely the kind of point that I want to debate. If anybody cares to call up and discuss this with me, because I am wondering, would we be better off if we had a Tory landslide, which is what they want, which is clearly what Boris wants, or on the other hand, were we in a way relatively lucky to have that hung parliament before, which meant that it seems to me that one true set of Brexiteers in that last parliament, the DUP in Northern Ireland, keeping the government on track for some kind of Brexit, or at least preventing a dodgy deal, a dodgy treaty, which essentially keeps us in the EU in a different way in the foreseeable future. A lot of Tories completely disagree with me on this, and that they think that I'm being very unfair and that we should be giving Boris a chance. It seems to me that I'm 50 now. In my 30-odd years of voting, every time I have voted for one of the mainstream parties, they have let me down. They have lied to me. They have, for example, enacted treaty upon treaty upon treaty to take us further and further and further into this EU globalist fascism. I'm not convinced that Boris's treaty is any different. I do not see how driving a wedge down that North Irish Sea is going to help our union, the UK union. I do not see how it's going to do anything apart from incite ultranationalism from the likes of Sinn Féin and the SNP. But hey, you tell me if I'm wrong. I do not see how giving our judicial system oversight by the European Court of Justice is in any way taking back control. Now, Boris will say, oh, yeah, but we come out at the end of the year, the end of 2020, we come out if we haven't sorted out a trade deal. Well, why don't we just come out now, go on WTOs, etc., etc. Yeah, we've got the ancillary deals in place. I do not understand the problem. It seems to me that there is prevarication, procrastination, lies, basically, coming from the Tories as well as Labour. Well, we know now that they just want to stay, basically, despite whatever Corbyn is saying. We know what the Lib Dems are saying. What is the truth of this? Now, I want to hear a salient response, please, to my charge that Boris's treaty is an extension, and that's it. A very, very costly extension that just drags out this process that does not give us Brexit. Please, tell me I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. Right, okay, so we'll take a few comments. And we got Neil Farrer saying the EU will cause conflicts. Amanda Rolfson says, hey, Amanda, think it has been a combination of NATO, UN, and the nuclear weapon threats. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Amanda, in context. Neil Farrer is just correcting himself there. Jesus Jones, we are never getting out of the EU. Fact. And, you know, that, I have to say, is how it appears to me. That is how it appears to me too. Helen Smith. Hey, Helen. Cool, bless you, darling. Each time a special day is coming up, one may guarantee that a disaster will happen. And it's theatre. Well, I mean, was that what happened on London Bridge with this guy Khan? I don't know. It seems to me that it was just another nutter. Why are they letting these people out? Why are they letting these people out? Unbelievable. Incredible. Amanda Rolfson says it's May's treaty at the end of the day, referring, I think, to Boris's treaty, which is May's treaty. It is May's treaty at the end of the day, or should that be Merkel's? Yes, indeed. Yeah. May went to Berlin, conjured up that treaty with Merkel, and then she took it to the British cabinet. I would have thought it should have been the other way round, yeah? Now, let's just be clear on the difference between May's WAB, which Boris voted for, by the way. So did Foggy Moggy, Mark III, yeah? Incredibly. What is the difference between that and Boris's treaty now? It is that the EU does not have a veto, a unilateral veto on whether or not we can actually leave the EU at some point undefined down the road. That was the big problem with the backstop, yeah. Now, though, we have, instead of that, that's great that Boris has got rid of that. Yep, top marks for that. But to drive a border down the Irish Sea, where can that be useful for the UK, for our union? Where can that be useful? Where can that not incite ultra-nationalism for certain cynical politicians to take advantage of? And indeed, as I say, the oversight of the ECJ, I find that quite incredible. Amanda Rolfson says, you need to zoom out a little, hun. And yeah, I probably do, but I'm not going to bother with that tonight. I'm going to look back at this and then make adjustments for next week. Thanks, Amanda. Paul Perrin, good evening, Paul, says, what's the best place to watch this? YouTube or Facebook? Or is it all the same? Well, whether or not it's all the same is debatable, Paul. But the only two places to watch this are youtube.com/Daily Brexit, which will be becoming /Daily Chaos, but not quite yet, in a few shows' time, and at wakeupuk.net. And I'm very honoured to be involved in syndicating this show to those guys. Thank you very much indeed, Jason Tyler. God bless you, mate. And I will be pulling in some comments from you guys in just a second. Jesus Jones agrees. It's all theatre, true. Amanda Rolfson, with having nuclear weapons, they seem to be a deterrent. Well, as we know, the EU have said that they want to amalgamate all of the nuclear powers, i.e. French and the UK, under their remit, under their control, as well as their militaries. And that is basically all part of this whole PESCO deal, yeah? This EDU and so on and so forth, which is a big threat to NATO. And as Nigel Farage, it seems to me, very correctly pointed out yesterday, the EDU and NATO cannot coexist, which does seem to make perfect sense. What is the point of the EDU when we have NATO? There's a lot of people that are saying, Trump was saying that NATO was defunct a couple of years ago. And I think it's fair to say, looking back then at the way things were then, his argument was that people were not paying their way. He, over the last 2 years, has increased the amount of money that's been coming in from other nations, aside from the United States and the UK, two nations which have been paying their way. So that other nations are pretty much paying their way now. France, for example, now is paying 1.9% of their GDP into NATO. Other nations, though, are not pulling their weight. And Trump does nonetheless seem to have pulled in a lot of money that wasn't there before and is now more keen for NATO to work. It seems that his threat a couple of years ago did work in that respect. But we are seeing this tussle between NATO and the European Union, who wants to have the power, the military power. Do we really, really want to give the EU our military tradition and military might? Do we really want a bunch of foreign, unelected or elected, brokered behind closed doors presidents? Do we, some of which may or may not be alcoholics? Do we really, really want this kind of person to be in charge of not only our military, but the nuclear button? It seems to me it's far, far better to have people that you have some kind of democratic process over, rather than people that you simply cannot get rid of, and that are essentially brokered by the likes of George Soros, the Richard Bransons of this world. Just quite incredible. Anyway, Paul Perrin also says, what is the transition period for? When ready, really, we should go straight to full Brexit. No transition needed. Indeed. Yeah. I mean, that is the thing, isn't it? Do you, as a Tory voter perhaps, do you really, really trust that Boris is being genuine when he says, get Brexit done? Or does that just sound like Brexit means Brexit? Is he just May and drag? I don't know. I know we're coming into panto season, but it does seem to me that this guy is being slightly less than genuine when he's talking about get Brexit done, when he says that Brexit will be done in January with his treaty, when that is not Brexit at all. There is nothing Brexit about giving a foreign court supervision of our laws for an undetermined period of time. I don't see where the Brexit is there. We will not be able to strike trade deals properly. Donald Trump has said, for example, that that treaty does not allow us to put together a trade deal, a decent trade deal with the United States. He said that he had doubts about that. I'll be interested to see what comes out along those lines, what is said off the back of these meetings going on in London over the next 2-3 days, what have you. But so far, as it stands, it appears that there is no Brexit here whatsoever, and not even a chance of striking a decent trade deal with, for example, the United States, our Commonwealth partners, who we have a responsibility toward, and nations such as Japan. Yeah. So, for crying out loud, where's the Brexit? Where is the Brexit indeed? Greg the Bakers, do a late night stream, Ollie. Maybe I will do more. Look, this basically, I thought I would get my feet back under the desk here, get the camera on, start doing a few shows and build it up again, yeah? But I have been procrastinating for various reasons, sure. Leigh Hollands just says, good evening, and good evening to you, Leigh. Amanda Rolfson, Helen Smith, hi there. You all know NATO is being disbanded for PESCO, says Thomas Whitelock. Ex-services man, Thomas Whitelock. And yes, that is exactly how it looks, isn't it? They want to basically swap NATO for a bunch of unelected fascists, frankly, EU globalists to take over our military instead, where we will have no control. And it will be up to these foreigners to decide whether or not we go to war with people that they deign that it is reasonable to go to war against. Far, far less control for us to be able to demand whether or not we prevent a war that we consider to be reasonable. And in the wake of Iraq, I think that that's something that means a lot to a great many of us. Amanda Rolfson says, EU just want full domination over everything. Time to get the heck out of it and stand with those who have stood with us all these years. Yup, indeed. You would think so, wouldn't you? You would think stand with our transatlantic cousins. And certainly whilst we have people in the White House that actually do seem to care about us, rather than wanting to put us to the back of the trade queue. Kenneth Noel Curran, good to receive notification of your live broadcast. Thank you. Fuck Abalak. I don't know what that means, Kenneth, but God bless you, mate. And I guess that's some kind of Celtic. Amanda Rolfson, get the wine out. Greg the Bakers, get the Pepsi Max out. Thomas Whitelock, good evening, Ollie. You will find Boris Johnson's deal is the very same deal the UK would have got if the Remain vote had won. Right. Is my audio okay? Is the level okay? Does it sound all right? Is it a bit all over the place? I'm kind of not very used to this thing here. It sounds a bit weird in my ears. I don't know whether that's because of these cans or what. So please tell me if my level sounds good to you. And let's go over to Wake Up UK and see what the folks are saying in there. Charles Ernest Spencer, the EU army would stand no chance against Russia since most of NATO forces is USA. Manchester Colin. Hey, Manchester Colin. Good evening, sir. Get Brexit done is an anagram of being extorted. Is it? Okay, that sounds about right. And he also says something else which just flicked up the screen or something. Charles Ernest Spencer says the EU cannot have our nukes as we loan them from the US and they would have to be handed back. Is that true? I didn't know that. I'm not aware of that. Does that mean that the Trident subs are not ours as well? I don't know. I would be very interested to hear more about that. And hey, folks, you can call in 033 000 11264. That's UK national rate. You can also call me on Skype to Skype, and I'll be able to pick that up and patch you in. So please, I don't really want to fly solo for the entire show for the next 45 minutes. So do us a favor, give us a shout. Let's have a chat. Let's have a conversation. I want to hear what your thoughts are on not only the election, lies or otherwise, and I want to hear your opinions on that. I want to hear people that disagree with me. I want to hear arguments for Boris's treaty. I want to hear people saying that I'm wrong and giving me hope that I might be wrong. But frankly, I don't see it. But please, call in. You can talk about the royal distractions. Yeah, this mic is getting in my face here. The royal distractions. Andrew, is he being thrown under the bus for malfeasant reasons? I'm not saying the guy is some sort of a moral creature. I don't think he is. After all, he was hanging out with a sex slaver. I think it's inconceivable that MI5 didn't know. But then again, you could have said the same about Savile and Charles, no? Now that guy is the heir to the throne. Why are they worried about Andrew, who's a, hanger-on? He's what, 8th in line to the throne. He's never going to make it to the throne, thank goodness. But the guy that is the heir to the throne was hanging out with somebody whose predilections were considerably worse than those of even Jeffrey Epstein, who, whilst he was a sex slaver, yeah, he was. But they were women. Young women, but women. As opposed to children and dead people. So you tell me. It just seems a little bit odd to me that they are concentrating on Andrew. Then again, and I want to hear people's opinions on this, because it does appear to me, Republican that though I am, that we need this royal family, actually. This is so surreal. The thoughts that are going through my head here, because on the one hand, I don't have any time for any of them apart from the Queen, really. But that said, do you want a President Blair or a President Branson or somebody like that? I suggest probably not, and that we would be in a far worse state were we to have that. What is going on? What is this game that is being played by the BBC? Was it as simple as they just needed to show some kind of journalism for a change, not least off the back of their Savile cover-up, which was decades long? And I think it was covered up by the likes of Mark Thompson, yeah, who was the head of the BBC, who's now, running the New York Times, for example. Mark Thompson, you're very welcome to call in and correct me on that. I find it incredible that you covered up, or tried to cover up, that documentary that was then made by ITV about Savile. You tell me if I'm wrong. Very, very odd. So what is going on now? Are you using Andrew as a way to try to regain some kind of journalistic prowess, which you have sorely lost over the course of this referendum campaign and subsequently with your ultra pro-EU bias? Or is there something else going on? I don't know. You tell me. I'd be very, very interested to hear from people from the BBC to talk about that and to tell me that I'm being unfair and why. But it does seem to me that there is some sort of a game going on here. Or is it just a cheap headline? Was it just getting a cheap interview with Andrew? And sure, yeah. Personally, I think the guy's a crook, yeah? I mean, it sounds as though he's been making millions off the back of his trade deals with this, what is it, Inverness Trust or whatever that he set up with some other dodgy dealer in Panama. It does sound as though he's very, very dodgy. We know what is it, Mahmoud Maza, the fake sheikh, got Fergie in a sting, didn't he? And he had Fergie ask him for $500,000 squids in exchange for having access to her husband or late husband, Prince Andrew. We know that these people are pretty damn crooked. Anyway, it's nonetheless, there's something far, far bigger. Despite all of this immorality at stake here, which is the direction of the UK, the timing, you could argue, and some people have mooted in comments to posts that I've put out there on Facebook and elsewhere, that they're trying to break up the royal family, they're trying to break up the UK in any which way they can, and that this is another attack angle. The timing is terrible because we need as much unity as we possibly can. Should they be handing the mantle down to the next generation, to William and Kate, who are essentially unscathed, no scandal, just maybe could do a bit more work, but essentially not bad people, it appears. Jeremy, are you having Gretna Thunberg as your guest on your next show? Charles Ernest Spencer is asking, Jeremy, since she is in Spain, I'm in Spain as well, as old Jeremy Poole, God bless him. Hey, Jeremy. Charles. Gretna. Poor Gretna. You wrote a rude word about Gretna there, Charles. I do feel very sorry for this young lady. She's got Asperger's, whatever it is. She's not a particularly healthy girl in some respects. We've seen that in video that she's done, for example, where she's been unable to control her body. And I just wonder if she is not being terribly used. But I would point out too, Greta, respectfully, that she's on the wrong continent and she's in the wrong country. Because as much as we maybe would like to improve the climate or whatever, or just to stop chucking as much plastic in the oceans and so on and so forth, or maybe just respecting the rock a little bit more, whether it needs it, whether it's our fault or not. And it annoys me when people say it is our fault because, frankly, I don't see how they know. It seems to me you need a load of ologies to have a rough inkling, any inkling at all, as to what's going on. I do think we're being played. It does seem to me that it's a great way to drum up tax and, again, to divide and rule. But you, Greta, are on the wrong continent. You need to go and talk to the Chinese. You need to go and talk to the Indians. So anyway, okay, that's great. Audio is good, says Paul, says Jeremy. Thank you very much, Anna. Andre Gillette, good evening, sir. Sounds good to me on Wake Up UK. And Jeremy Paul says that the next show should be cool. Posey Parker, a feminist. Referring to, I don't know, Posey Parker, I suppose. Hey, Jeremy. Right. Okay. So, are you going to call or what? You're very welcome. 033 000 11264. I can just rattle off here, yeah? But I don't really just want to hear my own voice. I want to hear what you people have got to say. Laura Nelson says, this man is very well spoken. Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much indeed. I've only had one beer and one glass of wine tonight. And she also says, yes, autistic and OCD. Her ex-headmaster said she was a mental case. I don't know anything about that, but yeah, okay. Yeah, I do feel very sorry for that young lady, I have to say. I think that she's being used in a globalist game. And so whilst it's very tempting to be very rude about her, she is a puppet, people. She's a puppet. Paul Perrin says, China don't need a climate crisis. They are already communist. Yeah, you got a good point, sir. Neil Farrer, we are responsible for 2% of global CO2. We could that ourselves back to the Stone Age and it wouldn't make any difference. And yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder. I hear, I was listening to some show, every other show on Radio 4 It seems to be either about being some transsexual, or, you know, how we all need to marry members of the same sex, or that the climate is all our fault, that you shouldn't be a white male person anymore, all of this sort of stuff. That seems to be the agenda of Radio 4 these days. I was listening to some show on there earlier today, and they were saying how there was no question whatsoever that the climate crisis, that the escalation in I don't know what, is down to mankind, and that there was no doubt. And as soon as anybody says there is no doubt about anything, I don't believe them. It puts my back up, because very, very few things in life are black and white. And anybody that says that they're exclusively right, I think they're an idiot, frankly, because how can we be? We are mostly, all of us, including me, are ignorant about most things. That's just the way it is. Very few of us know much about anything at all. And maybe one or two of us have a bit of an idea about one or two things, a bit of an idea. That's why I subscribe to democracy, because I think that between us we can come together and get some kind of an idea. It would help a lot if we had a decent educational system and we taught things like civics, sure. But for anybody to say that it is absolutely, without a doubt, this climate business, warming, change, whatever they want to call it today, is down to mankind exclusively, 100%, without a doubt, that is just ridiculous. How can they be sure what are the effects of the natural cycles of this rock and indeed of the sun? That is very, very rarely debated, huh? It's just like it's a big blame game, and it just seems to me that it is disingenuous not to be honest about that. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't care. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't recycle. That doesn't mean that we should, just be okay to throw cigarette butts out the car window or whatever. We should respect our environment and our neighbour's environment. Yes, we should. We should do all that. But to be disingenuous and to say it is this, and oh yeah, by the way, the polar caps are going to melt. I mean, weren't they going to have melted about 5 years ago? Aren't we now supposed to have been submerged? It hasn't happened, yeah? It hasn't happened. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I am now in danger of ranting. I said I wouldn't rant. This is going to be a more chilled show than has been Daily Brexit. To a certain extent, I might have a rant here and there just for fun. Kenneth Noel Curran says, free Melanie Shaw. Yes, indeed, Kenneth. Well said. Free Melanie Shaw. Free Carol Woods. Free Lynn Tyre. Free John Wanoa. Free John Alexander Patterson. Free Field McConnell. Here to defeat, and Julian Assange, here to defeat evil of the Children's Crusade. Care of Abel Danger, The Field Report, ASAP. Kenneth, call in and tell me, I don't know many of those names. I do know Melanie Shaw. Please call in. I want to hear what are the stories behind these people, and maybe in future shows interview a few folks about those. Tybeth Shibama, who is a new name to me. Hello, Tybeth. She was photographed in an Antifa shirt. So were her parents, presumably referring to Greta, anti-fascist or whatever, who I think a lot of you would agree. It seems to me that their tactics, at least, are pretty nasty. I don't know whether you'd call it fascist, but it does seem to be pretty hypocritical. Considering that they reckon that they are anti-fascist. They seem a pretty violent lot. Amanda Rolfson says global warming, tosh. The sun, the solar flares, some larger than others. The larger, the more radiation, fallout, etc., etc. The axis of the Earth is rotating again, north to south, as it did many moons ago. I don't know the truth of any of that, Amanda, frankly. I don't know. I really don't know. Jesus Jones, EU army equals no one to fight. It's all fear porn. And yeah, we are definitely getting a lot of fear porn, huh? No question about that. Thomas Whitelock says, I'm amazed I'm still able to get on. I'm still under license from my release. Thomas, I'm not going. I know a bit about your personal position. I'm not going to discuss that here. That's for you to do that. You're very, very welcome to call in and tell us what's happened to you. I do know that you are a patriot, sir, God bless you. Jesus Jones says, mushrooms are eating plastics now. And then we eat mushrooms. I don't know. She can shake us off anytime she wants. I'm not sure who he's referring to and if there's any sexual connotation there. John Middleton says, under license, under equals beneath. Jesus Jones, oops, going to spiritual. John Middleton, hi. You stopped me from Texan on UK column. Which corner did you take? I don't know what you're referring to, John, but UK column is a pretty cool show. Neil Farrell says CO2 is 0.039% of the atmosphere. I mean, where do we get these figures? And how do we know whether to believe them? I don't know what to believe. This is half the problem now with our position, it seems to me, is that we don't know what to believe. Anybody that has been paying attention over the course of, I don't know, the however many voting cycles, surely would agree that it's very hard to know who to believe. What was it? 80% of us voted in that last election, what was it, 2017, for parties that reckoned that they were going to deliver Brexit. Where is it? Helen Smith. I rang you, Ollie, but must have the wrong number. Helen, God bless you. No, hold on a sec. Let me just check. Let me make sure that my old Skype thing is working. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Yep, looks okay. Yeah, it's on. So please, I want to test it. I want to test the tech. Hold on. You hear that? You hear that crackling, or is it just me? Okay, I need to reboot my sound card. Just a sec. Right. Okay, that's better. Good. Fine. John Middleton says, I've just been on House Congress live feed, which should save me Texan. So what's going on, John? Tell us. Has he been impeached yet? I mean, that's a joke too, isn't it? Well, what is going on? Where is the evidence that he's actually done anything wrong? I read that transcript. It sounds to me as though he's doing what US presidents or leaders of any country do, which is to barter. And I don't know where the impeachable offence is there, but it does appear that the Democrats are pretty desperate. Thomas Whitelock, you never hear how much money each council are making from recycling. We always hear how much it's costing the taxpayer. And yeah, again, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And it makes you wonder with regards the wind farms and all of this kind of stuff, the solar, then you hear that people like George Osborne, who was giving tax breaks for these kind of eco farms or whatever, has family interests in these kind of companies. It really makes you wonder, no? Jesus Jones. LM worth £2 trillion legally. LM, what's that? LM, I don't know. Come on, folks, give us a break. Write out clearly. I'm a bear of little brain. Amanda Rolfson says, turns out the planet reverses its polarity every 450,000 years. I have heard this. And the last reversal happened about 780,000 years ago, which means it could happen in the next few thousand years. And who knows? Hey, maybe Tony Blair will fly off into space. It'd be fantastic. Wake Up UK says, Ollie, what do you make of Jeremy Corbyn's scientist brother debunking climate change? Piers Richard Corbyn is an English weather forecaster who owns forecasting website Weather Action. I'll tell you what I make of it. What I make of it is, well, where is the coverage actually in the mainstream media discussing these things? Because we never hear anything, do we? We never hear anything. Why not? Very curious. Okay, I've got Jeremy Poole here. Jeremy Poole, good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Hello. I
hey,
can.
Jeremy.
I just had to turn my other sound off because I wasn't ready for you to answer so quick.
Oh, that's all right. No, it's good. It's great. I hope now. Can people hear Jeremy? Please let me know, because that's the next test in the evening. Yeah, so that I can try and make sure that the show is working properly with all the right switches and so on and so forth. Jeremy, what would you like to say?
Well, just a bit of support for you, really. But the CO2 thing. nobody seems to mention that CO2, without this boost in CO2, we would have billions dead, because the CO2 boosted the plant growth. And one of the great factors of CO2 produced by humans, it is produced by us, the increase, is that it allows plants to grow with less water. Can't hear you, sorry.
You can't, they can't hear you. They can't hear you.
Look at me, I can't hear you.
Hold on, you can't hear me, or they can't hear you? Hold on.
Now I can hear you when you turn away from the camera. Yeah, so if anybody can hear me, CO2 makes
They can hear you. They can hear you, Jeremy. Go on.
Okay, CO2 makes plants far less vulnerable to drought, because when there's more CO2, plants use a lot less water, because they have to open up their whatever it is they use for the words are gone. Anyway, they use a lot less water because they have to spend less energy to get the CO2 in. So the more CO2 we have, the better plants grow in dry areas and the less water they need. And the reverse is true. Without CO2, they die. Plants die. And CO2, when it fallen, I can't hear you at all, sorry, Ollie. When it fell...
Well, I wasn't saying anything. I was listening to you.
The CO2 fell the last two ice ages, and the main reason for the ice ages was plants taking the CO2 out of the atmosphere. Cold, anybody who knows, you go near the poles and nothing grows. Cold kills plants. It doesn't let them grow. They don't grow in winter. It's a no-brainer. CO2 has increased the production of the world just by CO2. I think it's about 20 or 30%. And if you go back to CO2 levels pre-industrial, we could not support even, I think it's about 4 billion people, let alone 8 billion or 7.5 billion. So by cutting CO2, we are killing the poorer people, because the rich people will buy food from wherever it is over the world in their supermarkets. But the poor countries will start to have massive amount of deaths.
The question, is it not, is having a balance.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Plants need CO2, otherwise they die. They breathe CO2 and they chuck out oxygen, and we breathe oxygen. And so that's the way that works, yeah. But is this whole climate debate about having a balance of levels?
Yeah, but what is the balance? Through history, it's gone up and down. Idea. And there's absolutely zero proof that CO2 leads the climate change. There is plenty of evidence to show that it follows. But CO2 has not got a linear progression with temperature. It progresses with temperature on a, I can't think of the name of the scale, but a doubling in CO2 will increase temperature by 1%. The value of CO2 drops a lot as it you could double CO2 and it will cause 1 degree in temperature, but it will cause a massive increase in plants. And despite what people think, if you had a CO2 meter in your room today, if you had a CO2 meter where you are now, you would find, instead of the outside atmosphere, which is about 400 parts per million, you would be getting probably over 1,000, 1,500, and it's not poisonous to you. It's not. Humans live in submarines with over 2,000 parts per million, and in space stations with over 4,000 parts per million, 10 times what it is now.
How can you be sure of any of these, in inverted commas, facts?
Well, I've been, for the last year at least, I've been looking at how CO2 affects plants and why, because I thought it's very strange. As you said, when everybody agrees on something, I know there's something wrong. So I've been talking to my son as well, who studies microbiology, and he is of the same opinion as me exactly. And all his professors are. And I said, well, why don't they speak? He said, because nobody wants to listen to them. It's like...
There does seem to be a big problem in the science community that if you are some kind of a climate skeptic, in inverted commas, you know, to use this kind of jargon, then you are ostracized. That you cannot get a grant, for example, for your doctorate and stuff like that. There does seem to be a big problem in that aspect. A little bit like if you are a journalist who actually asks questions as opposed to covering up issues, then you can't get a job in the mainstream media. And there does seem to be a big problem along these lines with the world in which we live. No.
Yeah. There's a terrible delay or something on this, because I'm watching you and what I heard is very different.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Latency. How much latency? Are we talking about milliseconds or seconds? We're talking about seconds.
I'm waiting to when you finish your mouth moving and when the talking stops. So we're talking seconds, 3 or 4 seconds.
Really? Okay, I need to look at that. Thank you very much.
I would have contacted you on the. I wanted to contact you straight through the Wake Up UK site, but I couldn't. It wouldn't allow me to click on the link, which is much easier usually. Oh,
I don't know how to do that. Okay.
No, me neither.
Right. Okay.
Jason does all that.
Right.
Yeah, but as I was saying, when you there are facts. How correct these facts are, but when you look at NATO satellite, not NATO, the satellites photos of the Earth, they show it getting much greener, much greener as it goes along, and when I see on TV over here they're having funerals for the end of glaciers. Wonderful, yeah, glaciers look great, but they're very unproductive. When a glacier ends, grass grows. Animals come in and live there. They don't live on glaciers. Nothing lives there. It's crazy.
Yes.
Absolutely crazy.
There are some things that are very concerning going on with this planet at the moment, though, such as, for example, in Siberia, the kind of fires that we saw. I mean, this might all be lies. I don't know whether this is true. I've got no idea what to believe. But apparently there were some massive fires earlier this year in Siberia, for example, which was burning off the permafrost, and then the soil loses all of its nutrient and all the goodness, and then you get land collapses and stuff like that. I understand that there are some big problems that are going on. I don't know the truth of that, and even if there is truth in that, I don't know what the cause is of that. And I think that anybody that is honest with themselves would say that's the big problem here is, are we being taken for a ride, or is there something genuine going on?
Well, Ollie, you just said something there. This fires in Siberia are not started by global warming. Fires in Siberia are started by people. Fires, you live in Spain the same as I do, and we have very long hot summers, and every time there is a fire, it is always found it's started by people. Can't hear you again, Ollie, sorry.
Yes.
It's people. Always people.
Yes, right. Okay, let's take some comments and see what people say about this. Jesus Jones, money grows on trees. Maybe they're making money plastic on purpose. Amanda Rolfson says the climate debate with the governments is nothing but a ploy to push more taxes on us and other goods like electric vehicles, etc. Always a plan. Amanda Rolfson says also, during the times of the Old Testament, there were floods, there were extremely hot weather, land becoming covered more in sand due to the heat, etc. Nothing new at all. John Middleton says, if we live on a flat plane, why are some parts in darkness? Jesus Jones says it's only a small sun. What happens if the planet tipped upside down opposite sides, says John Middleton. There would be some pretty big floods, John, temporarily. Kenneth Noel Curran says they are blocking my messages, thwarting bona fide efforts to stop child abuse UK and elsewhere. Remember Declan. Yeah. And Neil Farrer says Greenland was lush a long time ago and CO2 was 400% higher. No factories in them days.
Nope.
Yeah. Jeremy, I just don't know what to believe. I just don't know what to believe.
Well, if you look historically through lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. Lies, that because I studied economics. But when you go back through history, if you take the last 88 or 400,000 years, you can see this progression of CO2 with climate. If you go back further, you can see it didn't follow. It was very different then, and climate temperature was much hotter with much much more CO2, and it was much hotter with much less CO2. Gone again.
Jeremy, are you listening to YouTube or Skype?
I'm listening to you only now on Skype.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So you are hearing me. It's just that there's a delay on YouTube, yeah?
On Wake Up UK, I think.
And on Wake Up UK too. Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
Stop looking at that, really. It's throwing me completely. You're talking, I'm thinking, oh, wait, he's saying something, and it's not. So you've said like a minute ago. That's
fine. That's actually technically correct. So we are okay. So for once, I have not cocked up the tech. Amazing. Warren Whiteley says direct action on the 13th. Okay, Jeremy, let's change tack here slightly. No the general election. I think politics is probably a little bit easier to understand than the climate. The climate debate very possibly is orchestrated by the politics. What do you see happening off the back of this election, irrespective? Let's say that you got your, if you like, fantasy government in. I don't know if you have one from this lot that are running one way and another. Do you see any prospect of Brexit?
Brexit in name only. That's what I think will happen. If
so
my
no
ideal
Brexit.
government came in, I think it could. It is none. Farage, I don't trust enough anymore. Even though he's probably the only one that comes close to it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that last sentence. Why do you not trust him?
He seems to quickly change his jacket and change back and go with. He doesn't stick to a line. He doesn't stick to a line that I would say, that's it. This is what he's doing. He seems to jump back and forth between different things that like having a deal, not having a deal, WTO. We should have gone out WTO straight away and then talked about it. We'd have been out and back in a good deal now, and things would have been over and moved on. But now I don't know. I just hope we give a strong message that the people of the UK are pissed off and want out, so that the politicians who think they rule us, it should be the other way around. All politicians are distrustful as far as I'm concerned. But we have to give a strong message to them.
We did that last time. We were told that Brexit means Brexit. I have to say, hands up, I voted for Theresa May last time. I voted for the Tories because I thought she keeps saying Brexit means Brexit. How can she go back on that? She's backed herself into a corner. I was wrong. I was clearly taken for a ride. I made a mistake voting for her. Then again, had I not voted for her, we might have got the Labour Party, and then we would already be in a Marxist situation. I don't know. I mean, there's different ways of looking at it. But she lied. We know that now. She effectively has been a foreign agent. I get these many people who disagree with me on Daily Brexit page on Facebook and on my timeline on Facebook and what have you. They disagree with me vehemently and say that Boris is our hope, our only hope, and that he is saying that we will get Brexit done and they are willing to trust him. Are they in a state of Stockholm syndrome? Am I wrong to be tarring Boris with May's brush, or what?
Well, I thought he was different when he started. I believed he was different, and then he comes back with the same deal. Perhaps you could say that he didn't have a strong enough hand to go with. And perhaps now he gets a massive majority and he goes back and say, that's it. We're not listening to this nonsense of a deal. We're leaving on a much better deal, or we leave tomorrow. We just go. Who knows? You've got these new four horsemen of the apocalypse in charge of the European Union. They've got, they're going to try and dig their heels in, I think, and get something. So I don't think you got much hope of getting a better deal than May did. And I think it's another sellout coming. I really see that.
What these folks are saying, these, if you like, dyed-in-the-wool Tories, is that Boris provides the best hope for Brexit. I got to say, I don't vote for hope. I vote for action. I don't vote for false promises and pledges that may or may not come.
So you don't vote for politicians then? Because that's all you ever get, is what you just don't vote, what you say you don't vote for. There's nothing else.
At some point, we need to make a stand, don't we? But we're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't. Because if we stay at home, then we could end up with, God knows what kind of government, maybe a Corbynista stroke Sturgeon government. Can you believe it? What a nightmare that would be, with fast track death of the UK. Or, on the other hand, we could get a majority Tory government. And it seems to me that actually, you know what, that is also, instead of it being a fast track, it's a slow-mo train crash for the UK staying in the EU. It just seems to me that you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. We're not going to get the Brexit party now, are we? It's just not going to happen. You
live in the EU like I do. Are you getting, because I get a lot, I live in Catalonia, it's a slightly different situation to Valencia. But I'm getting a lot of anti-Brexit feeling here. A lot. It's growing massively. And I think we're looking, I put a comment earlier, looking at somehow someone starting a new party, a democracy party, a democracy in Europe party, which takes, looks at these four horsemen that have just taken over and says, we never voted for you. If we're going to have a United States of Europe, which I don't want, at least make it a United States of Europe where we vote for a Prime Minister or we vote for a President of Europe. Not just one that appears from behind closed doors. I think things are changing. People are starting to get pissed off with the European Union in every single country.
Yeah.
Is it this in Valencia? Right.
Yeah, I'm in Valencia. Yes.
Yeah, is it the same kind of opinion that people are starting to get pissed off with the union?
To be honest with you, I'm stuck behind this keyboard for most of my life, and I'm not a very social animal, and so I don't really know, especially. What I can say is that the Spanish media is worse than the British media when it comes to the propaganda. In my opinion, they are... at least there is some semblance of debate in the UK. Over here, there doesn't seem to be any debate whatsoever. And it was borne out, was it not, in the recent election here in Spain, a month ago, when they maybe are piecing together a government now after about 4 elections without being able to achieve an actual operational government, where none of the parties were Eurosceptic at all.
There is no. Is there Eurosceptic? I don't think there is. Not in Catalonia.
No, none of them. Oh, what, in Catalonia? Do you have parties that are Eurosceptic in Catalonia?
No, none at all. Nothing. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. A new party needs to be formed in Europe itself.
But Jeremy, Spain has done very well out of Europe. Spain. They have taken a load of money. I mean, they've paid in to the EU something like 1/20th, about 5% of what the UK has paid into the EU. Spain has paid into the UK, and yet they have received so much money out of the EU, which has paid for a shed load of infrastructure and so on and so forth. So, if I was a Spanish leader, I would be totally pro-EU. Because you're doing very well out of it.
The Catalans say the same about Spain. The Catalans say exactly the same about Spain. How much money they pay in and how much they receive out. That's exactly what I hear.
You're right. What's happening in Spain with Catalonia is a microcosm of what's happening in Europe. It's a fascinating parallel. I want to take a few more comments, and then I want to ask you a little bit about one or two of the other talking points tonight, if we can, Jeremy.
I will sit with you because it's your first show and nobody else is calling in.
God bless you. Yeah, what a lot of gits you are, not calling in. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, sir. Okay. John Middleton says, I bet the dinosaurs had some gas, CO2. Amanda Rolfson says, Greenland, interesting to see that Vikings lived and flourished there for many, many, many years. Lush Greenlands. Then started becoming colder and colder, so they could no longer live there. Frozen. John Middleton, AKS them for a fee if vote. Warren Whiteley, after a meeting, Farage is now discussing PESCO. Well, it's about time somebody was. The one thing that I've heard from any of these people regarding PESCO is Boris, who hasn't mentioned PESCO itself, but who has said that there should be continued cooperation with the EU's direction on military cooperation, he called it. They're talking about a complete amalgamation under the EU umbrella. Of course, he didn't mention that. Just as he doesn't mention the UN Migration Compact that his predecessor Theresa May signed, meaning that borders are redundant, effectively, and that migration is encouraged and actually facilitated by edict. And they don't discuss that at all, do they? Whilst at the same time, their manifestos, all the mainstream parties, are talking about not screened, unscreened migration, carried on. They're continuing to talk about that without explaining that the reason why is because Theresa May signed the UN Migration Compact in Marrakesh during her, and autonomously, with no discussion whatsoever in the Commons. Far less there be any news stories that you and I, us plebs, could read. Nothing for us, not discussed whatsoever when she signed that. Quite incredible, absolutely amazing. Warren Whiteley says Boris will sell us out. No deal. Article 24, he says, and direct action is under common law. Warren, maybe you'd like to call in sometime and talk to us a bit about that. I understand that there's something going on with some military types in London pretty shortly. I'd like to hear about that, and if maybe we can support that somehow. I know that you, Jeremy, had a cracking interview you had last week with Simon Bean. I'll tell you, that was a terrific interview. Well done, sir. Thank you very much indeed. I learnt a few things. What a geezer. He seems pretty philosophical, but pretty concerned about the direction that the military unification is going in Europe. No?
Yeah, I wonder if that call was me. Yeah, he's very concerned, and in fact, I think he's more concerned. He's already gone.
He's already gone. What do you mean he's already gone?
Yeah, it's already gone on. The pacts have been signed. Things have moved on. France, Germany, and Britain have already signed the three. Was it the 3 E's or?
Yes. Now, okay. Let's try and clarify this then. So, is it? Oh, hold on a sec. I need to restart. Okay, so I've clearly got a bit of an issue technically with my sound card. And that should be better now. It is better now, but it does break up a wee bit. Okay, so the way that it is going, from what Simon was saying, as I understand it, is that there is, first of all, kind of a cooperation of 3 key powers, those being the UK, France, and
Germany.
Well, is it Germany? But they don't.
It was Germany, yeah.
But they don't have much of a force, do they? I thought that they. This is basically the thrust of what he was saying, and then it leads into is it an E7, where another 4 nations are strapped onto that, and then that in turn would become the EDU. The European Defence Unit or Union. Union, right? Okay. So he reckons that we are already seeing the unification of our forces with those of France and
But it was more than the forces. It's not just the forces, it's everything. The productions, the factories that produce everything around the forces. So that we're all reliant on each other. So you can't leave. You're stuck. Nothing will be produced in the UK. It will be produced between France, Germany and the UK. So that whatever happens is all stuck together. I think that was the gist of it, more than just the sort of the soldiers and the fighting arm. The production of all the technology, all the weapons will be combined. And everything. So it's already started. It's already well on its way. And perhaps this is why we've spent 3 years trying to get out. Perhaps because we'll go too far and we can never get out there.
So this is a pretty major statement that Simon made. Now, I haven't verified this, by the way. But I don't know. Simon maybe is somehow wrong. But he is a pretty respected military type, MBE. I don't see what his motivation would be to lie about this. I don't know. But he did say that. The point being that I'm trying to make here is that we, again, are having no debate about this whatsoever. We're seeing our military one way and another decimated, regiments being disbanded and so on and so forth, less navy boats, less planes and so on. And we're seeing it cut. And now we're hearing senior military types saying that we cannot protect our own shores, for example, which could be an issue if we ever get our fisheries back. We are, the point being, Jeremy, there's no debate. There's no debate about it. Pardon?
There's only one person honestly talking about this, and that's Guy Verhofstadt.
Mm-hmm.
And he says his tweets and his all his things in the European Parliament talk about this European army, and he says it so honestly. He's for me an odious guy that I detest. But he says it honestly. He says, yes, the EU army, this is what we need, this is what we want, this is what we get in. Join forces, one EU army. No question.
John Middleton says, if we've been paying $39 billion a year, what have we been a stakeholder in for a membership? Well, apparently we've been paying for the right to trade, John. I would have thought we could have done that for free under WTOs, but there you go. Warren Whiteley says, the maverick veteran will not lie. Noah's Missus, hey Noah's Missus, new name to me there, sir. Can someone briefly tell me why Trump's left early? Think I've missed something. I don't know. Maybe he got fed up with Trudeau. I don't know. Go on, Jeremy.
I missed something. I didn't know he left early. I've just got home from work and come on to speak to you. Trump's left?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, so Dave Simpson is asking, Ollie, do you want to run on? Dave Simpson, hello, sir. God bless you. Honk your horn. No, Dave, you're up next on Wake Up UK, and folks are looking forward to that. This is just a 75-minute show. Is Daily Chaos now, and then it's down to you. God bless you, mate. Charles Ernest Spencer, on the 13th, some places in London are to be taken over, and I think that is some of this action that is going on by members of the UK military, which is going to be very interesting. I want to ask you briefly, Jeremy, we've got 3 minutes late. I want to ask your thoughts, because we haven't discussed this at all yet, on the royal family. Your thoughts, is Andrew being thrown? Is there a dangerous game here? Are we in danger of destabilizing the monarchy at a time when our country is quite vulnerable and actually maybe needs the stability?
Possibly, yes, but for me, it's time for him to go. Charles has obviously been involved, and he got protected. That's my opinion. Only my.
You're talking about Savile.
Andrew's been thrown under the bus for doing the same things. Perhaps Charles much worse.
Could it not be said that Charles was just naive?
And all the security around him naive, and all the fact that the BBC already knew and nobody said anything, and he didn't get back to the palace at all, that what he was up to. I don't believe that.
That's my concern as well. Not just Savile, but also not Cannonball, the Bishop Ball. Bishop Ball.
Okay, that's better.
Got him out and playing with little boys or something, and Charlie basically backed him, and then it turned out that he got completely exposed. No innuendo there, and Charles then had to apologise. But no questions about Savile.
You defended the Queen earlier, but she knows about this, because she has to know, and they're her children. She has to defend them. But I find it seems to be running too deep. It's running too deep. It's the judiciary, the royal family. And possibly this is why when you get these massive sex cases in the likes of Oldham, that they're not too concerned about them because they're up to the same thing.
Jeremy Poole, thank you very much indeed. You've been tuned into Daily Chaos with me, Olly Connelly. Back next Wednesday, 9 o'clock. youtube.com/Daily Brexit and wakeupuk.net. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.